welcome to episode 105 of Explode Your Expert Biz Show, brought to you by gtex.org.uk. I'm your host, Simone Vincenzi, the Expert Strategist, and this is the podcast for experts who want to become the ultimate authority in their niche while making an impact in the world. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Super Joe Pardo on Sales Won't Save Your Business. Super Joe Pardo is a New Jersey-based sixth-generation business owner who works with businesses and owners to help them grow by focusing on their team, offer, and process. In 2014, Joe decided to leave his family's $100 million business. Let me just say it again. $100 million business. He left it to pursue his dream and starting his own business. Shortly after, he founded the award-winning show, The Business Podcast, featuring Super Joe Pardo, and that's how we met. I was a guest on his show. And his platform is based around helping business owners pursue the business and lifestyle of their dreams. In this episode, we talk about why sales won't save your business and what to focus on instead of sales to grow and scale effectively, and how to find the perfect team to work with you. You can find all the links of Joe Pardo's book, Sales Won't Save Your Business, plus all his social media and website on the show notes here, or you can visit www.gtex.org.uk/episode 105 to find also the full transcript of the interview as well. Now, I'm going to do something new before we start with the interview, which is sharing with you the tool of the day. So every show, I'm going to review a tool, something that I use that helps my business, works very effectively. And the tool of the day that I want to share with you is called Magisto. Magisto is a new app. I mean, it's not that new actually. It's been around for quite a while, but it's an app and that works on desktop and as well on iOS and Android that automatically edits video using artificial intelligence. So you can select a video. It's very simple. It has 3 steps. You select a video, a bunch of images that you want to associate to the video, a theme that you want to use, an editing theme. Then you select a song that you want to be in the background, the music that you want to be in the background, and then it pieces all the pieces of the video automatically together, and voila, you have a professional edited video done in a matter of minutes. It's awesome. I use it, and I use it in particular when I release the videos for YouTube or Facebook because it looks like someone has been editing it. So I don't use it for advanced editing. So if I need like a professional showreel, I will always go to a video editor. However, for this kind of work, if you're having a piece of video that you're releasing for your content material, which doesn't require too much editing, then Magisto is perfect. Will save you a lot of money, will save you a lot of time, and that's where the future of video is going. So make sure that you check it out. There is no affiliation. I'm just sharing. I don't earn any commission from this. I'm just sharing something that I use for my business day in and day out that helps me out. And that's something that I want to start sharing every show because I think that I can help you out in this way. We can all share your ideas. So if you are sharing and using some tools that are working greatly and perfectly in your business, let me know. Send me an email at simone@gtex.org.uk and let me know what kind of tools do you use so I can review them, I can check them out, and then I can mention your name on the podcast if I see it's a valid suggestion, and also talk about the tool that you use. Also, if you want to make a 6-figure presentation and become awesome at selling from the stage, you know that's my area of strength, selling from the stage without being a total douchebag, but selling with integrity, without sleazy technique, then I've created for you the ultimate selling from the stage checklist, which is the most comprehensive checklist to create a pitch that sells without being a douchebag. So make sure that you download it. There is the link here in the show notes for you to download it. And as well, if you think that running your expert business is a very lonely and isolated journey, and you want to connect with the guest that we have on our show, you want to connect with me and with a vibrant community of experts where we release weekly free training to help your expert business. Join our Facebook group, which is Explode Your Expert Biz, and you'll find that here in the show notes as well. Now, make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done that yet. What the heck are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now. And without further ado, let's start the interview, right? What the heck are we waiting for? Let's hear it from Super Joe Pardo. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Biz Show. I'm here with the one and only Super Joe Pardo. How you doing, Joe?
What's up, Super Simone? How you doing?
I'm incredibly well, thank you very much. I was expecting you to come on the interview with your cape. Like Super Joe, but I'm expecting the cape.
It's a dry cleaner right now.
Is it a dry cleaner? That's what you do when you save the word, right? You good, right? Of course, it needs a good wash. But I think like businesses,
it's got baby spit all over it right now.
That's like the behind the scenes of the life of a superhero. Well, I remember when I was on your show, Joe. It was we ended up talking a lot about that your wife was on holiday with the kids and my wife was on holiday at the same time. So I remember our conversation. It was really brilliant. Now, I know you have released a book recently, which is called Sales Won't Save Your Business, which I looked at it. I was like, oh, everyone says you need to make more money, sell more, right? And you're there saying sales won't save your business. So we're going to talk about what can save the business then, if not sales. But before,
apparently crying babies can.
Yeah.
You can hear all that in the background.
That's the life of a dad, right? But before we do that, let's just hear about a bit more about you. How did you get into helping other businesses to thrive?
So I grew up in a family business, sixth generation entrepreneur, business owner. I grew up sweeping floors and working in the warehouse, and I grew out through that and technology. And when about 4 years before I decided to leave, I left in 2014. April 2nd was my last day at my family's business. I started to get this idea that I wanted to do something else in my life. I just wasn't sure what that was. And I wasn't sure how that was going to manifest. Well, a few years went by, and finally about 9 months before I decided to leave, I told my dad I ended up going back to school because I didn't have a degree. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a direction. I didn't have anything but a bunch of experience in my own family business, which I was like, that doesn't look good on a resume. And I don't even know what kind of job I want anyway. So I did a bunch of networking events and tried to figure out okay, what is it that I was like, maybe I want to go into sports, or maybe I want to do this or that. And I found that I wasn't really confident about any of those. So I just continued to go to school. And right as I was getting ready to leave, I was coming out with my first DJ album. If you can see on the camera, my turntables are still behind me. You can actually see the album is back here. And I just love the process of going through and doing that. Right, I've been DJing for almost 10 years at that point, and I really love the process. So I was like, you know what? How can I go about doing something for myself where I get to do this creative process all the time? About a month after I left, or not even a month after I left, 2 weeks after I left, I was on a plane to Disney World, came up with this idea for the Dreamers podcast. But when the plane landed, we registered the domain name, the Twitter handle, and the Facebook page. Within 2 weeks, I had launched my first episode, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Part of the Dreamers podcast, which you can also see behind me, the original logo, was that I wanted to help myself figure out what is it that I want to do with my life. I don't know, but I knew a lot of people that were living their dreams, so it just kind of steamrolled from there. From there, I took it into a business direction where I enjoyed writing books. I wrote 3 self-development books, which I have right here. They're very different in very different ways.
Yeah.
But they're me, right? They speak to me and what I love and how I love to go about doing things. So, From there, it went to the Dreamers podcast, business lessons from those that live their dreams. Because I was having all these business people on, and we were talking about business, and that's what gets me pumped up. And it's really what I love is talk. I could talk about business all day, every day. And then once I won the award, which you can kind of see behind my head right here, which was the 2017 Podcast Awards, the 12th annual Podcast Awards for business, I was like, you know what? It's time I rebrand the show. And since you've been on the show, the show has changed to the business podcast featuring Super Joe Pardo. It's been, I mean, that's like the too long didn't read, still pretty long version of the story. But that's how I got to where I'm at now, where helping business owners and writing my first business book. I mean, the other books, the first book, the 31 Life Changing Concepts, that was revered as a business book. One of the things about doing the business podcast is it's where business and life meet, because business and life to me are very much a thing that it's together. And once you realize that, you can start to, I always say, build your business for your lifestyle, not your lifestyle for your business. Because all too many business owners that I know through growing up and working in the family business, and even after that, have built their business or their lifestyle around their business, which is not very healthy, because businesses are 24/7. It's like a robot, and trying to compete with a robot
is impossible. And you see a lot of families that get like destroyed just because of business. I have a lot of friends that are running huge successful businesses going through multiple divorces. I'm like, I don't think I want that kind of life.
I was on that path. That's one of the reasons I decided to leave, was because I was getting super stressed out every single day of my life. Coming home and yelling every single day, not at my wife, but to my wife, about how my day was going, how I was mad at the world, and and all these things. And I had to find those reset switches to turn it around for me. And eventually, that's when I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I need to do something for myself, and I don't know what that is, but I'll figure it out. And here we are, 3.5 years later, and I'm pretty sure I got it figured out at this point.
That's brilliant. So one of the things that you figured out is that sales won't save your business. That's one of the things you figured out. Why did you write that book, and why do you think that sales won't save any business? Because, I've seen a lot of people, they struggle with business. The main advice they're given is sell more, right? Like, you've got a lack of cash flow, sell more. Is that what you got to do?
Well, okay. So one of the big things that I did when I was at my family's business, one of the last big things I did was I took our inventory. It was a giant debacle. I have like a 30-minute video that I shot talking all about it, so I'm not going to get all into it. But basically, we had way too much inventory, and we needed to get to about a little under half of what we already had on the shelf, and a lot of it was old. Through processes and through doing returns and relationship building, we were able to do that in just under 2 years. So we went from $6 million in inventory down to a little over 2.5 in just under 2 years. And that was through not fire selling everything. That was through just having the right inventory in the right place at the right time, because we had 10 locations that were selling this stuff. So, putting the pieces in the right place instead of just ordering more. When it comes to sales, don't get me wrong, sales is the lifeblood of a business, right? You don't have a business if there is no sales, right? If there's no money coming in, there's no revenue, then there's no blood pumping through the system. But if you're losing, at the basics, the most base level way of understanding it is, if you're losing money on every sale you make, then you're not actually making any money, and it's not going to save your business. You could have $10 million in sales instead of $1 million. If you're still losing money on every sale, it's not going to turn around.
Actually, you're wasting and losing even more money. The bigger the business, the more money you're losing at that point.
Yes. And but people like to get caught up in I'm doing blah 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 amount of sales, and it's like, but if you're not making money on that, if it's costing you more money between your processes, between your team, and between your offer, maybe your offer needs to be adjusted so that it's not costing you as much, but the experience is still there, or maybe the experience isn't there, and you need to plus up that experience to get to a right level of an offer that's worth it to the people you're trying to sell to, right?
Absolutely.
And, when it comes to your team, like I talk a lot about in the book about empowerment, and empowerment through process and enabling people to go through those processes that you create for them so that they can feel empowered, right? And also not micromanaging, because there's a lot to be said for managers getting stepped on by business owners along the way. That's like, oh, well, I said to do it this way, and then they're reprimanding them in front of the people that are supposed to be carrying it out, like the employees or the team members, and now all of a sudden they're not respecting the manager.
Absolutely.
Super counterproductive.
Yeah. So you're mentioning three things to do instead of selling in your business, in your book, right? Mm-hmm. So you have teams, you have processes, and you have, what's the other one?
Offer. So it's the top.
So
right, the TOP, team offer process.
Team offer process, fantastic. What I would love to start is let's talk a bit more. Actually, let's start from this one. If you were to work with a business, right? You say someone comes to you and say, Joe, I need help. Like, please help me, Joe. Put your cape on and help me. Please make sure you get a dry cleaned one. And where would you start? Would you start from the offer? Would you start from the team? Would you start from the process? What was the first point that people need to analyze?
So when I work with my clients, it's all about understanding their business, fit to finish, right? And that can take sometimes 2 sessions just to get to that point, 2 hours for us to go through and like, okay, because I need to understand too the ins and outs of their industry. If I don't know every industry. I come from a retail background, a wholesale background, a warehousing background. But with that said, like we also did service in a service shop. So we did service-based things as well. It's really, you really have to drive in to say, okay, checking my ego at the door and saying, okay, I don't know everything about the restaurant industry, just to take something, but I know as an experience myself, like what I have experienced. So, being able to listen, right? That's the number one thing that I have to be able to do as a consultant is to listen to what their biggest gripes are, what their biggest complaints are, what's the biggest problem, because they might not even realize what their biggest problem is. And one of the things that I do differently than, for at least from what I've been told by a lot of people, is I actually go to the business and spend 3 days there, because there's no knowns, the things that are bugging them that they know it's bugging them. And then there's things that there's unknowns that they don't even know that it's bothering them until you're there to see it and be like, oh, that's the thing that's actually what's causing the problem. Yeah. Right? Like you think it's your elbow, but it's really your shoulder. Like you don't know that because the elbow is what's hurting, but it's the shoulder that's starting the pain shooting down into the elbow kind of thing. I don't know if that made sense, but
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. it made absolute. I remember, for example, was a few months ago, I was stuck in bed, and I couldn't really turn my neck, and I couldn't even lie down. Like it was that bad. I've not been taking any drugs I'm pretty healthy. I've not been taking any drugs for about 6 years. No drugs at all. Man, I was crying from some paracetamol, ibuprofen, whatever something could give me so I could just lie down. And I went to the chiropractor, and my pain was there. Right? My pain was there. And it ended up that actually the problem was down here.
In your shoulder blade?
In my shoulder blades. And
I get that problem all the time.
And I was feeling the pain down my neck, but the problem was in my shoulder blades. So I get what you mean, because sometimes you can feel the pain somewhere, but the problem is somewhere else. And the way the body works is the way the business works, right?
Yep. Yeah, well, hey, life and business.
Life and business, exactly.
We meet all the time.
We talked about that. So I want to ask you now, talking about processes. Let's start from processes. What do you think is crucial because of course every business, every industry will have different processes and different systems. But if you could give some golden rules about creating awesome processes for a business, what are your top golden rules for creating awesome processes?
So the same as with consulting, right? With my clients, you got to be able to listen. You got to be able to check your ego at the door. Because you think that something's working doesn't necessarily mean it is. And, as a business owner, one of the things that my grandfather taught me when I was little is like, and even my dad too, you need to know every aspect of the business. You don't have to be the most amazing accountant, but you have to have an idea what your accountant's doing throughout the day. And if you don't, that's a problem, because if you have to replace that person at some point, you have to be able to tell somebody else what is it that they're doing. One of the so in order to do the listening part, you have to do something that a lot of people hate to do. And the thing that a lot of people hate to do is, Simone, I know you've been working for me for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. I need you to write down everything that you do here. Everything. And it's not because I want to replace you. It's because I need to better understand where the problems are. Where, like, your job might be accountant, but you're actually going out to like Sam's Club. I don't know if you have Sam's Club over there, but you're like going out to Sam's Club to buy all the office supplies and the, the coffee supplies and all these other things. Like, you're doing all that. So that's part of what I'm paying you to do. And that's okay if you understand. And what we can find out is like, okay, if you're doing like these things that have nothing to do with what I'm paying you for, and this other person is doing this, maybe we need another person there. Maybe we need a part-time person that just goes and buys this stuff. Or we need to order it on Amazon, or, streamline that process right there. So now I just took off like 3 hours a week off of your table, or maybe it's 3 hours every 2 weeks that's when you're going out to the store. You start to see these types of things where it's like, where are you losing time and not spending my money effectively?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Or even not even just my money, the client's money, the customer's money, right? Because they're the ones investing in me and in turn in the whole business, to make sure that the money is being spent the right way so they get the best experience.
It's all about efficiency, making it more efficient, making it in a way where you understand. And I love what you said about knowing every aspect of your business. I'm a big believer in that. Even though there are a lot of people that actually say the opposite. You don't need to know every aspect of your business because you are the entrepreneur. You should have the idea and have other people working for you and hiring, and you just have to hire. But ignorance is expensive. I believe that ignorance is very expensive. Because if I hire someone to do my digital marketing and have no absolute clue about digital marketing, I'm in for the biggest ripoff in the history of business. Is if I'm in and I want an accountant and I know nothing about accountancy. For example, my case, my last accountant ended up almost costing us £12,000, which is about $15,000 more in taxes that we shouldn't have paid. And then we managed to hire a new accountant that restructured our accounting system. We negotiated with HMRC, which is the tax body of the government. And we managed to save that money and not pay the right amount of taxes, just because one error was made up front. But because I was ignorant and I didn't know what I didn't know, then I left everything to my accountant. So I'm a big believer in what you said, and is a long and painful journey to get to know every aspect of your business. I'm sure you can agree with that. It's not the short route.
You need to be the best student you can be, and the best student on your team, right? So you need to question everything, and getting 3 quotes helps, but that's not going to necessarily save you the headache that, like, getting not even necessarily the cheapest, but let's say you took like the middle one or even the highest end one, it could still end up being a bad deal. You just don't know it until you're in it. So exactly. That you can't necessarily avoid that. But here's how you can learn, right? By questioning everything, learning from that process, instead of just being, like you said, ignorance is expensive. It really, really is. Question everything along that path so that you're learning, so that going forward, you can make better decisions for, like, okay, this didn't work out. I understand why it didn't work out, at least to the best of my knowledge. Now I can go and take that next step with someone else and ask these very specific questions so I don't get screwed again.
Exactly. I love that.
You don't have to be like, okay, I'm an accountant. Like, I went to school for, like, okay, no, I'm not expecting anyone to do that, but just question everything. Man, and that's how you're going to get those answers.
I remember my first ever accountant that I hired. I paid him, I think, about About 2,000. I'll give you the price in dollars. Was about $2,000 up front. It was about £1,500, and it flew to Brazil with my money. That was the first expensive lesson.
Oh man.
Then I had a few. Then it was like we worked many years for this other accountant, and then he just set up things in a way that was not tax efficient. So when we were running a small company and we were not turning over hundreds of thousands of pounds, that was fine, because you might pay £10 more or £10 less or £20. You don't notice that, but when this become like 12 grand, that's a different story, right? Then you realize, wow, so the small mistake that I made at the beginning, then is going to be costing me tens of thousands later on. Now, I want to talk about teams because we covered processes. I want to cover about teams. And one of the biggest thing is how do you keep... I have to find, actually, the question that I have for you is a very selfish question because I'm there and, expanding my team and hiring people at the moment. So we grew from 2 people to 9 people now that are working with us. And...
Woo!
Yeah, it's been exciting, but I told you before coming along, I'm very stressed, Joe. I told you I'm stressed, and the question for you, Joe, is how do you find the right people? How do you find the right people? Because one thing is to keep the right people and keep them motivated, but first of all, you got to find the right people. How do you find the right people, Joe?
One of the most interesting things that I learned through first off, through the process of growing up is, hiring friends sounds great. Hiring family sounds great. It isn't always great. And from what I've seen from other businesses, my own family business, and even my own business now, is it's not as like sunshine and roses and rainbows and unicorns as I would love for it to be. The thing is it's more important to find somebody who's aligned with what your goals are and what your culture that you're offering and bringing to the table is, right? So like one of the big things that I learned through doing all these podcasts, one of the most important things I learned was, asking a question about something that's really important to you. Like the example that I give is, when's the last time you made somebody smile? Tell me that story. So if that's what's important to you and they have a great answer for that, well, then maybe you can talk to this person, 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
I mean, you're basically marrying this person. So you need to be able to communicate with them because that's the dirty C word that everybody hates is communication. And communication enables you to have better relationships, not only with your team, but with your clients and with your customers. It starts with having a basic understanding that you're the right kind of people for each other, and then not just for you, but for your other team members, right? I know, I'm not a big fan of quoting people. Like Steve Jobs had this really great quote where he talked about, I stopped hiring C players and only A's and B's because A and B players only hire A and B players because they don't want to carry the C players.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think that there's a lot to be said for that. And to go deeper into how to go about empowering your team once you have them.
Yeah.
It starts with you and then empowering yourself, right? Doing the things that make you happy so that you can be the most productive person and the most available person, right? Being present for those people. It's not like, okay, Simone, you come into my office. Yeah. So what's going on? I'm listening.
I'm listening. Give me a moment. I'm listening. Give me a moment.
Talking. Keep talking. I'm doing it. But I mean, it drives me up a wall. And I can't tell you how long I've had to deal with that kind of stuff to understand that. Well, first off, multitasking is a myth. Anyone that tells you multitasking isn't a myth, they don't know what they're talking about. Yep. There's a great book about it. It's really short. I don't read a lot of books. I read this book, and I'm glad I did. It's called switch tasking. And so you're only listening to every other word, right? Like you're switching between, I'm looking at my phone, and I'm listening to you. I'm switching back and forth, and you're going to drop words, and eventually you're going to have to be refilled back in. So I think, to me, empowering your team starts with empowering yourself. Being able to get really honest with yourself. And that's one of the things that with this book, Sales Won't Save Your Business, there's a lot of questions in it, right? There's a lot of lines for you, because there's exercises at the end of each pin. I call them pins instead of chapters, because it's like a roadmap. The each question, the 3 questions, starts with yourself, what it should look like, what the ideal situation should be, and then a group exercise where I want you to go back to your team and collectively come up with ideas on how to fix these types of things, that we talk about in the book. So, I think that it opens up those lines of communications. And what you may find if you go through them is that you don't actually communicate very well with the people that you've hired, and you've hired them for one reason or another. They're the best accountant. Well, that's great, but if you can't talk to them, how are you going to be able to
absolutely
make it work?
Absolutely, personal relationships are crucial, and that's something that personally I've been working on with all our team members, because I've read this advice many times, and I was saying, I don't want to make this mistake. I don't want to be that person that, I mean, at least I can do my part. That's what I can do. If I'm there for them, if I'm available, if I'm there to support them, I give them all the resources they needed, then I've done my bit. Then it's up to them to perform. And if you don't perform, then okay, that's the door. Can go home. That's it. Because I'm a big A player. I mean, I'm a basketball player. Now finally I made it in the professional UK basketball league, Joe.
What? No way.
I made it. No matter if I'm smaller than Isaiah Thomas, but I am. But I made it. So I'm big. I'm super competitive, and I'm the top performer. I'm just, everywhere I go, I was always top performer. So I had to learn a lot on how to manage expectations and how to find the right people, because managing expectation, not expecting that from day one everyone is going to perform at their top from day one. That's something that I would have loved, but hey, people gotta learn. Right?
Well, that's up to you to make those processes, right? To write down what you do and how you go about doing it. But managing your expectations, it's tough for me too, right? As a perfectionist, as this guy, this hyper focused guy who likes things to look a certain way and do it, I'll just do it myself. You have to, if you can't accept good enough, sometimes, not all the time, but depending on what is good enough, is sometimes what's going to get you there, right? Rather than nothing. And you can improve upon that as you go. The people that you hire are the ones that are going to take you from the level that you're at to the next level, to the next level, the next level, the next level. But of course, if you aren't building up the the stairway, the proverbial stairway underneath, as you stack those people on top of each other to support them with your processes, then you're not doing your job as the owner,
Absolutely.
as an owner, right? Because everyone could be an entrepreneur. I mean, there are people joke like, oh, he's an entrepreneur. Oh, he's unemployed. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think now the word entrepreneur can be easily switched with unemployed. And as entrepreneur, okay, is on benefit. I mean, here in the UK we have benefits, so I don't know do you guys have benefits in the US or not? I don't think you guys have.
For entrepreneurs, I don't know. I should look into that. Actually, I never
because
really
here in
thought
the
about
UK
it.
we have also some benefits for entrepreneurs while they're starting out. It's not something I've always looked into that, but that's something I know we have.
Doesn't hurt. I think that it's a positive way to help spur innovation, right? Because if you don't have those opportunities, that extra oomph, just like student loans or anything like that, I agree with that. I think that we should. That's how you're going to get more small businesses.
Yeah, exactly. Because not everyone is starting with hundreds of thousands of dollars or pounds sitting there in their bank account and say, "Hey, okay, I'm gonna start. I got all this cash available. What can I do?"
Starting is a very relative term at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well, you are already in a great position. In fact, found that when you start the second business that you start after a very successful one that you had first, then the second is much easier because you have already people, you have already the connection, you have already the network, you have already the capital, all the things that when you're starting out, then you are building up yourself. Remember, we started GTEx with 100 quid, 100 pound. That's all I had. That's what we started, and it took us a few years, and we made the first 6 figures, and then the second 6 figures, and moving on. So now, Joe, before we wrap up, because this has been an incredible interview, I absolutely love that. It was like full jam packed of golden nuggets or superhero nuggets. Tell us a bit more about what do you have for our listeners, and where can people get in touch with you and find you?
Yeah, so Sales Won't Save Your Business will be out March 2nd. You can get it on Amazon right now. You can pre-order it. Like I said, it comes out March 2nd. There'll be an audiobook version as well available on Amazon. So
I'm going to get it. Thank you.
I'm pumped to get that out there. My good friend Al Kessel's doing that. In fact, I'm making my audiobook debut on this book because in the book, I was told that quoting myself was a little too conceited. So I wrote in Super Joe Says in the book, and I'll be doing the Super Joe Says parts in the audiobook. So you'll be hearing my voice come through.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to it. So let me know as soon as available on Audible. I'm gonna get it because
it should be ready by March 2nd.
Mate,
it should be.
I'm in. I'm already clicking. My credit is gone for you. That monthly credit is going for your book in March.
March 2nd. And you can get all my stuff, whether it's, all my social media, my blog posts, my podcast, the business podcast, my business lesson videos, my talks, all that stuff at superjoepardo.com. That's Pardo. But if you spell it with a T instead of a D, that's okay. You'll get to the same place anyway, because that's how we do in the I don't know if it's SEO, whatever. I make sure that you can spell my name wrong and you'll still get there. So and Simone, I just want to say, like, I see you every single day on Facebook, and you're like hosting an event, like it seems like every day.
Yeah.
To every other day.
Yeah, we're running
either hosting or you're at an event. It's absolutely incredible. Keep up the great work, man.
Thanks, man. I mean, we run about 200 events a year. We're running 200 events a year for the past 3 years.
That is awesome.
Yeah, call it the consistency. Well, I mean, one of the things that I've learned from all our guests, I think that's in your show, you came across that too, is consistency the number one thing you can have. A lot of people just switch too soon, and they don't get into the flow, they don't get known for one thing, and they don't have a business process. Well, I got events. Like, you got your books, you got your consulting, I got my events, and we keep going and making this world a better place to live, making other experts better experts, and making businesses better businesses. So guys, make sure that you get Joe's book, because I'm sure is awesome. I haven't even read that yet, but if you have listened to this interview, then you can understand this is just like the tip of the iceberg of what you're going to find in the book. So get the book right now. You can find the link of the book and the website as well in the show notes and on the website. So make sure that you click the show notes and you get the book right now. Joe, thank you very much. Super Joe, I'm calling you Joe. Super Joe, thank you very much for coming on our show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Super Simone. And Simone.
You got it. You got it.
Simone. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for being a guest on my show as well. I really do appreciate it. And if you're interested in podcasting, I do run a podcasting event in September here just outside of good old Philadelphia called the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference. We got a little over 100 podcasters last year. We've been growing year over year. So this year we're hoping for like at least 150. It's international. We have people from the UK to California come out. So check it out at midatlanticpodcast.com. You can get there from my website too. But if you're into this podcasting
if you put the link and send me the link, so I'll put that in the show notes too.
I will. Thank you.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Joe. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You too. Thank you.
And listeners, thank you very much for being on our show today. It's been an absolute blast. If you haven't subscribed yet to Explode Your Expert Biz show, make sure that you click the juicy subscribe button right now. I know it's calling you. It's hard to resist. Yes, click. You You see, Joe clicked right now. And also, give us a 5-star reviews. That will help us boost our ranking here on iTunes or Stitchers, the other different platforms that we use, and let us know what is the biggest thing you got out from this interview with Joe Pardo. Thank you very much for listening or watching, whatever platform you're following us from, and we'll see you in the next episode. And remember that together we grow exponentially. See you next time.